Happy Wednesday. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Welcome to the Apollo webinar. Just want to introduce you to what we're going to be covering here today, how to use the platform. A couple seconds on me. Nobody cares about that. But then we're going to get into the topic of this webinar, website visitor data, something new launched with Apollo. Really cool. I'm going to show you the impact it can have, how to get it set up, and what you can do with it in Apollo. We'll have some messaging tips as well. If you can't add website visitor tracking, maybe you're not in control of your website. At the end in section 5 and in the resource kit, we're going to have some ideas on how you can do a lot of the stuff we're going to talk about today, but with other signals and pivot filters. And then there'll be time at the end for Q&A. Now, I'm James O'Sullivan, part of the Apollo Academy team and Apollo Academy instructor. As you can see, I've got my uniform on, currently #1 ranked Apollo Academy instructor in the world. You might have seen me in some previous webinars, or if you've recently joined, you might have joined one of my daily live trainings, but I've been selling for 17, 18 years, selling to and for everything from seed stage startups, early stage, to Fortune 500 companies. Been an Apollo user and customer for 7 years. So let's get into it. Why use website visitor data? If you're not already using it, you might need some convincing. I'm going to walk you through this about how powerful that could be, especially in the present selling climate we're in. So I'm not telling you anything you don't know. Sales is changing, right? We're going from grow at all costs, which is where we were for a while. Maybe not every company, but by and large, that's what we're seeing, to a world of efficiency in the sales org. That's what people are focused on. They want to get more done with less. You see that at times at companies I've been at during recessions. You see people start to do that, but right now things are more difficult. So what's going on? Well, growing buyer complexity, growing buyer and seller complexity, uncertain markets, right? Missed revenue targets, by and large, tougher selling ratios, everything from reply rates, connect rates, everything is harder or lower. Buyers are flooded with generic impersonal sales messaging, so it's just harder to even break in, get folks' attention. 54% of salespeople said selling got harder in 2023. There's no doubt that they're going to say the same this year. So we're on a multi-year trajectory where things seem to get more difficult. So you constantly want to be finding a way to improve, because you can almost anticipate that, hey, that's just not going to be some golden era of just, it's easier and easier to make sales. So at some point, though, you got to work smarter, not harder. Ideally, work smarter and harder, right? But there's a finite amount of hours in your day to work harder. Eventually, you've got to find ways to work smarter and ideally do both. So Smarter Outbound right now is focused in essentially 4 buckets. These are the 4 areas you can start to really make progress in terms of resolving those ratios, getting a better bang for the buck on your time, targeting, how you're targeting your leads, even how you're organizing them, putting them together, right? Clumping them together, common characteristics, that sort of thing. Messaging, what are you saying? How are you messaging? And a lot of these are influenced by the other things you're doing. It's hard to be specific in your messaging if you're going to try to automate something, if you're not targeting and getting really focused in on the type of leads that you're bundling together. Timing, obviously, a lot of times timing was something that we would stumble into just through high activity or hard work. But again, that's harder and harder to do right now. It's harder to break in. People try to do a lot of research before they even talk to sales, and I'll cover that in a second. And then automation, of course. So one spot for valuable leads, if you're not currently tapping into it, is your website visitors. You're going to have people come to your website. The average amount of visitors that fill out a demo form, give you their information, say, hey, I want to talk to you. It's around 5% or less. You could check the stats on yours, right? But that's where you'll probably see it. But what about those other 95%? They came to the website. That's some indication of interest, or somebody's talking about it internally. I've had jobs where somebody told me to go research solutions for pain, one of the executives, right? So those could be great leads, better leads than just your general highly targeted cold leads. And I think we would all treat those leads differently if we had a bunch of leads, but we knew a few of them were coming to the website and coming often and checking specific pages. We'd probably treat them differently than we treat the other cold leads. We'd want to do different things, maybe put more time into them, or have different messaging, or maybe that messaging would be influenced by what pages they're going to. And that's where you could start to see potentially a pretty big impact. So buyers make better decisions when they interact with sales. And I think it's better decisions when they interact with sales earlier. A long time ago, you had to meet with sales because that was a source of information. As information asymmetry gets less and less, you're seeing folks saying, I want to do more and more research for myself. People think they want to do more research and make the decision on their own more than in practice it's actually helpful. This is a new Gartner data coming back. When people buy on their own or when they get a rep or a company to help them with the decision, they're more likely to regret their purchase if they did it all on their own. People make better decisions when somebody from the company, an expert, is helping them to figure out what they want and tying it to their pain. And that's better for you as well. So if we could get there even before they think they're ready for that demo and filling out that form, that could be a really good thing. So, traditionally we looked at inbound and outbound as two different things. Inbound was you get who you attract. There's some level of interest. Can't really control who comes. That it might be good or a bad thing. I've worked at companies where inbound was a punishment, at other companies where people were blowing past their number with inbound. And outbound is you get what you pursue, what you want, but you've really got to put that work in. And you've probably seen folks talking about this recently on X or LinkedIn, but there's this middle ground. It has a couple different names. Some folks are calling it inbound led outbound, warm outbound, but that's when you combine the two. The people coming to your website, not filling out a form. You got that data and combining that with your traditional outbound motions, but being more specific to those types of folks, the people actually coming to the website, showing some level of interest, some level of intent. So the benefits of warm outbound are you could prioritize leads depending on clear intent data signals. Nobody's going to your website because they just had some time. They're on the train, they want to read about your company, right? Or it's their lunch break. There's some level of interest, some level of conversation or curiosity. It might be early, it might be later. They might be just trying to validate they're going to buy from somebody else, but there's some level of interest. You want to get to those leads before your competitors. Somebody's going to try to get to them early. And when you do, you're influencing how they think about it. That's where you could generate leverage. Because trust me, if one of your competitors is talking to them early when they're just starting to educate themselves on their pain, their problem, the solutions, they're going to be giving them opinions and a perspective that's ideal for whatever they're selling, their solution, right? And oftentimes that'll be bad for you. And it also lets you confirm your outbound efforts. So you're doing all this work, your team, you're doing all this work, emails, calls, etc. And right now you often judge it based on meetings set, meetings booked, deals closed. Sometimes you use the data if they're opening the email, but that doesn't really give you any indication of, are you making an impact? Are you persuading them? Are they getting interested or curious about what you're selling? When you start to see all that outbound effort result in somebody's going to the website, or they're going often, they're checking success stories that you might have recommended. Now it starts to confirm what you're doing is working. It's getting some level of interest. There's some element of either educating them on what you have or persuading them towards it. Now, of course, not all visitors are ideal for what you sell. Some visitors won't be a good fit. And that's where potentially it becomes an issue of having to sort through them and figure out a way to only see the ones that are good. But that's why it's so nice when it's part of Apollo and all that other data, because you want to have the right message at the right time for the right opportunities. So that means not all these website visitors are going to fit into this equation. Ideally, what would be great in a perfect world is we get all that website visitor data. We see who's come to the site, the companies. We narrow that down to the companies that would be a great fit for how we sell or what we sell or our competitive position in the marketplace, right? Then we get the right people in those companies. We identify them, we know who they are, and quickly, and then we can optimize our outbound motion around all that. We know that they're visiting, they're a good fit, and we've got the right folks. And that's what I'm going to walk you through inside Apollo, because now you can do that with this new website visitor tracking tool being part of the suite. With the website visitor tracking, you know what companies are coming to your website. With the company filters, you may have used those. When you go to search in companies, there's a bunch of filters. Now you could set up filters to narrow down all your website visitors, the companies, to the ones that are an ideal fit, or clumps of visitors that will fit into certain messaging or outbound motions. Very quickly, you can find the right people in those companies or the personas that would be ideal for what you're doing, and then put people into plays or sequences, playbooks, however you set up when your outbound motion, when you've got a great lead or a VIP lead or a high intent lead, that sort of thing. That's what would be ideal. And that's a great way to set yourself up for a big upgrade. So as an example of what you can do now when you've got this set up, somebody comes to the site, they're looking around, you can see what specific pages they're going to. Maybe you set some of them as high intent, medium, or low intent, but they're a good fit. You know that's an ideal company. Probably is already on somebody's list as a company to be working. They've gone to that pricing and case study page. So now that rep or yourself, whoever's working that account, is pretty excited. That seems to show some real interest, or somebody's doing their homework, but they left the website. They didn't fill anything out, and they've never responded to any emails. They've never picked up a phone call. So we're going to set up Apollo when that happens to alert the rep, the person that owns the account or selling the account, or that would be. They're going to email them or send them a message in Slack. Now they know, so that if they've been doing outbound activity, they can know, okay, something's worked here. I know who I've been going out to. But automatically, we're then going to take that account, put it into a list, throw it into a high intent or VIP sequence. And that'll be different if you're working targeted accounts, you got a bigger team, or if you just, you could just work with anything. There's a ton of accounts, there's a smaller team. But we're going to connect the right contact with the right rep in either scenario. And we're going to do it quickly and with the right messaging because we have that information. So a quick note, I mentioned this at the beginning. Everything I'm about to show you and walk you through, you can do on any plan. So if you're on free, basic, professional, or custom, you could tap into this. Now, I'm going to walk you through how to set this up. You can still get in there, even if you're creating your free account today, and set this up so you can start seeing that visitor data. I'll show you what you can do even on the free and basic plans. And I should have mentioned, these are the number of, when it says 10 a day, 250 a day, 500 a day, that's the number of companies revealed per day that you could see on the different plans. So here's what we're going to walk through in app. I'm going to do this live in Apollo. I'm going to show you where to get this so you could set it up in your account. Then I'm going to show you how you can access that website visitor data. Let's say you get it set up. You put that code on your website. You want to see this tomorrow. I'm going to show you where you could find that. How to prospect from those quick and easy, especially if you don't have a lot of website visitors. You can be doing this really simple. But if you do have a lot of visitors or you want to set up automations, I'm going to show you how to filter it so it's only your ideal ones, matching the right fit company or persona, automating that into sequences so you have some high intent, something that's going to be perfect for that type of lead, and setting up alerts for the reps. And then I'll also show you where we have a dashboard. It'll show you all your visitor data, the pages people are visiting, the companies that are visiting most, that sort of thing. So I'm going to go hop into Apollo and I'll walk you through this. Let me make this a little bit bigger for you. Perfect. So let's get in here and set this up. So this is the home screen of Apollo. I'll zoom in. I realize on a webinar it might be hard to see depending on what resolution it's showing up as. But if you want to set it up, you want to get into your account today, the first thing you're going to do is just go to settings at the bottom left. So when you click on there, it'll be under prospecting. You'll notice under products, there's a tab called prospecting, or an even easier way to access it, if you don't want to mess around with that, is just at the top of settings, just type website. That'll pop up one option for you, website visitors, and I'll show you right here. And click on that. So when you get to that page, you're going to notice this is really simple. All you have to do is there's two things. The first thing you're going to do is grab the script. Now, if you use Google Tag Manager, this is going to be simple. There's directions right here for that. Even if you don't use Google Tag Manager, you're just going to be copying this right here and popping it into the head of your website's HTML. So again, this is something you can have probably done before this webinar is finished. You're going to hit copy code. It'll pull this code you see right here, get it in your website. And then at the bottom of the page, you'll notice you're going to tell us your website domain. What do you want to be tracking? Where did you place that? So you'll see we've got two in here as an example, Apollo.io and testing.com. When you hit add domain, this will pop up. You're just going to paste the domain, the URL of your website. I'd recommend hitting this advanced intent settings tab right here, because this is where you can actually pop in specific URLs, pages on your website. And I'll open it up just to show you. You can pop in maybe the pricing page or testimonials or specific success stories, pages for different industries, give it a label. And right here is where you can set the intent as low, mid, or high. So for specific pages where you know, hey, nobody would be going to this unless they're really interested, maybe mark that as high, because you'll notice when I show you where to find this information, you can sort by low, mid, and high intent. And Apollo's also got an algorithm that'll use the data you put in here along with the frequency and quantity of visits to help you sort from there as well. So you put in the pages, you put your domain. Once you have that code in there, you just hit test connection. You'll see that right here. And it'll tell you, is it active or inactive? We don't have it on testing.com, inactive. We did put that code into Apollo.io, script connected it. It's showing up green. So that's all you have to do to get it set up. And once you've done that, you see the green, it's starting to collect that website visitor data. So now let me show you where you can find this information. See the people see the companies visiting your websites. Because I think that's, and if you don't have that, that's going to be pretty exciting to start seeing it. So the first thing we're going to do is click on search. Most folks are familiar with this search page. A lot of folks go in here for people. If you've never been to the companies tab at the top, oftentimes this is used to create lists, search, filter company types so you could prospect within those. But we're going to click on companies because this is where that website visitor data lives. You'll notice when you go through all the filters here, all the ones you're used to are here: industry and keywords, number of employees, location, the technologies they use. But there's going to be one that's marked new with a green tag on it. It's website visitors. All you have to do is toggle that open. And again, this is really simple. You're going to say, I want to see all the website visitors, the companies visiting my website for a period of time, like just say 7 days. A level of intent, that's that custom algo I was telling you about, where it uses your intent data, high, medium, and low, as well as the quantity of visits, frequency of visits, to narrow that down. The domains, if you have multiple, you can select it right here. I'll select Apollo IO. And then you could also say, hey, only show me new companies or show me all the visitors in that last week. I'm going to do new companies. If you want a definition, I'm going to say right now, this will be organizations that are visiting your website for the first time, new within the last 7 days. There's a little question mark here that'll give you that definition as well. Now, if you want to get more advanced, you could actually pick specific URLs, those pages that you set up, pricing page, testimonials, whatever it might be, or minimum or maximum view count. Once you've done that, you'll notice that right in your search results, you're going to see all the companies, and I'm zooming in just for a second so you can see it real nice, but you'll see all the companies that have visited based on the filters you just put in. The last 7 days, new companies to Apollo. We've made it so you can access this data very quickly from this page, because depending on how your sales team is set up, how big it is, how many leads you're working, this may be where you just want to work things from. You'll notice that when you go to any company that's visited, there's a little, what is that? There's a little screen and it's neon green. It's got a little graph chart on it. You just hover over that and it's going to show you all the website visitor data for that organization. So it'll show you total visits, unique visitors, their last visit. It's going to show you that it's an approximation of website intent, high, medium, or low, again, based on if you give us that data on different pages. And it'll show you their top visited pages. If you want to filter further, because we were saying not every website visitor is going to be a great fit, you can add filters from all the normal search capabilities right here. So if you look at you want to look at certain size companies, location, that sort of thing, you could pop it right in. So for example, I'm going to look at, maybe I run a team, or I'm focused, I want to build a sequence that focuses on a specific industry. I'm going to say I'm going to look at all, I work mid-markets in the SMB, so I'm going to do everything up to 500, but I'm focused on accounting companies. Now, maybe that's just what you want to see because it's good and you're going to work it from here, or potentially you want to save that list and then build a sequence that'll speak to it. You could use all these filters, narrow it down. Now you'll see I'm narrowed down to 24 that meet whatever filters I popped in. And of course, you can then hit Save Search right at the bottom and tap into this, seeing all the new companies that meet your filter requirements, what makes it ideal for the last 7 days or whatever time frame you want to see. Now, of course, I'm going to recommend you give yourself clarity at a glance here. Ideally, you're going to create different searches because you want to set up sequences or some sort of messaging, whatever you're doing for outbound, that's going to speak to that type of buyer, right? So give yourself clarity at a glance. And another way you can help yourself out is setting up search subscription alerts. People often skip over this on the people side of search, but when new people come in this case, I'm looking for all new website visitors that meet my ideal fit company in 7 days. I could say on a daily or weekly basis, send me that list in email as well. That could come in handy. So let me get into showing you how to set up some of these automations. That's an easy way to get in there. If you got a small team or not a lot of visitors, that might be enough. But ideally, we're going to be prospecting from here, not just seeing the company, but getting good leads or setting up automations. So you'll notice I've narrowed it down to my ideal fit. I want to find contacts from here, and I don't want to just have it from a saved search or a list. I want to immediately go get those contacts. You'll notice that you could select all the companies right from here or specific ones. And there's a Find People button right here on the screen. When you do that, it's going to take you over to the Search People side of the search capabilities, and you're going to see all the contacts in Apollo that work at those companies. This is where you can then apply your persona, if you've pre-saved personas that will narrow things down further, or other filters such as job title. So I'm going to pop in here, and I'll only want to see anybody that's a vice president, for example. I know nobody sells specifically to vice presidents, but just to show you, now I'm going to see those, and you can use all the other people filters. As you know, there's a ton of them on the people side, I think 65 in Apollo, and then you can save that as well. So this is a great way to very quickly prospect from your website visitors. You'll notice that, what has it been, in 8 minutes? We've been able to get in there, filter them, find contacts, and we're ready to work them. I think that's going to be enough for a lot of organizations. But if you've got a lot of website visitors, or you want to automate things so you can get very specific with your messaging, you can do that as well. So let me walk you through how to set up the automations. So if you haven't used this before, I think it's an underused feature, because this is where you can start setting up a lot of things that you're doing manually and having Apollo do it for you. You're more likely, when you set up automations, I've seen in practice, to get really specific, have sequences for unique bundles of common characteristics of leads. So as opposed to sending one email to a bunch of leads, you can really narrow things down, speak to the pains, the value prop, whatever you want for that specific type of buyer. So if you've not been here before, you'll notice under Tools and Workflows, there's a button that says Plays. So I'm going to go in there. I'm going to walk you through 2 plays you can set up. The first one's going to take your company, the website visitors that are a good fit for what you're selling, and it's going to put them into a list automatically on a weekly basis. All the new visitors is just going to pop them in a list, something that you yourself or your team can prospect from. Then I'm going to show you, if you want to take it a step further, how you can put them directly into a sequence, the right buyer from the right types of companies. You'll see I've already got 2 of them set up. I'll walk you through how to do this yourself. So at the top right, you'll see a button that says Create Play. Let's create it from scratch so you know how to do this. And the first one we're going to do is we're going to grab all new website visitors that are a good fit, and we're going to put them into a list. So you'll notice that when you're creating a play, let me zoom in so you can see a little bit better. It's when something happens on some sort of signal or on a date, if then. So if you've used that with other setups, like with Alexa, for example, it's not going to be too dissimilar. So I'm going to set this up to be when it's going to happen on a daily basis, let's just say, or every week. I'll show you on the side here. You've got 2 options, based on a trigger event or based on a date or schedule. I'm going to set this to happen every day and to not end. We'll hit continue. Now, the next thing we're going to do is you're going to see that you can set this up to the if statement to be for people, company, or deals. We're going to go to companies because that's where the website visitor tracking filter lies. So go to companies and hit add filters. And you'll notice you've got all those filters that we used originally to go find all the companies visiting our website. When you scroll down, you'll see that website visitor one. You can open that, and you're going to have the same access that you had over there. So I'm going to say last 7 days, our domain, new companies only. And you can leave it right there. If you don't have a lot of visitors, that's all you want. If you just want to automate every website visitor gets placed in a high intent sequence, for example, we can do that. If you've got a lot, you're probably going to narrow it down more. So maybe I'll put accounting in here I'm focused on, and I'll select some different company sizes. This is nothing specific. We just want to show you some narrowing down. Perfect. So now it's only going to show me website visitors that fit my filter criteria of what's a good company fit, and we'll save that. The next thing you're going to want to do is what actions will occur when this happens on a daily basis. You got new visitors coming in. So we'll hit continue. And we're going to add to list. Actually, let's do 2 things. We're going to send an email. You can alert folks via Slack to a channel, to yourself, to somebody else. You could send it to an email as well. I'm going to set that up to email myself. And then I'm also going to add to account list. And this is where you don't have to have the list pre-built. If you have a list that would fit this, maybe high intent leads of a certain industry or size, something that's already been predefined as VIP for you, you can pop them in there. But otherwise, I'm going to do website visitors, ideal fit companies, last 7 days. Website visitors, ideal fit companies. Add and hit continue. Now, if you got a ton of visitors, just one thing to note, you'll see that you can limit the number of companies processed. If for some reason 10,000 companies come in one week. I doubt that's going to be the case, but you can set a limiter here. You could also say how often companies should be added if they're coming on a repeat basis. Every time, only once every month, every week, whatever it might be. I'm just going to say once every month. And we'll hit continue. Once you got that set up, this is all you need to do so that all your website visitors that fit your ideal criteria are going to a list. So I'm just going to put this here, website visitor, ideal fit, play. And we'll hit save. And now you're all done. So if this is something you'd like to do with yourself, you can copy this once you get that tracking set up, and you'll be, every day it's going to start putting those companies into a list. Where I think it really gets interesting though, and where you're going to tap into the power of sequences more, is when you can take the right people that are in the companies in that list and automatically start adding them to sequences that are specific to the type of companies in that list. So I'd actually set up multiple of these so that you're speaking to small companies, big companies, companies in specific industries around what your product or solution can do for them. So let's go hop back into place, and I'm going to walk you through the second one as well. So once again, we're going to hit that create play button at the top right, create from scratch. When this happens, I'm going to do on a daily basis again, but you'll be able to choose a trigger event, something happening, or you can do it weekly or monthly, whatever you'd like. I'm going to run it once every day. It'll end never, and we'll hit continue. So now we're back at that screen where we're going to choose what filters, if this happens, and we could choose people, companies, or deals. Now, normally when you make a list of companies, you're thinking about companies, but that list can be pulled up in people as well as an inclusion or exclusion list. So let's stay in people, and we're going to hit add filters, and we're going to go to lists. So lists can be people or companies. Again, you upload a list if you have targeted accounts. You only want to see leads in that list. Or if you want to upload a list of your active accounts, exclude those companies from any leads you're seeing. But in this case, we only want to see the right people within a list of companies that are visiting our website. So select companies right here, and then go down and find the list that matches the one that you just created, the one that's going to be website visitors in your ideal fit or a specific type of company or opportunity. So I'll choose that one. And then all you have to do at this point is layer on your additional filters. What type of folks are you looking for? So if you want to add a persona, for example, you've got pre-built personas, you can just select that right here. I'll select two. Or if you'd like to use the other filters individually, everything from location, time zone, job change, time and current role, industry. There's a lot of ways you can use this to really get specific, and we'll hit save. The last thing we're going to want to do is for then, so we're running this every day. We're looking for website visitors and the right types of personas. Now we want to add those folks to a sequence. So right now, to do this, it'll take 2 plays. We're currently in beta testing, so you can do account-based plays like this across just one step, building one play. I believe there's folks in beta, and a lot of folks are confused about what that website visitor tracking shows. I'll go back and show it in 1 second. But website visitor tracking is going to track companies. So you'll be able to see how often a company is coming to your website. From there, Apollo data is going to find you the right people in the organization that you'd want to be speaking with. It won't narrow down to specifically James O'Sullivan at Apollo is looking at your company website from Elmhurst, Illinois. But the last thing we're going to do when we have to do this across 2 steps right now is just add contacts to sequence. You'll notice you could pick the sequence, whatever one you set up for this. I'd like to do it by industry potentially so that the messaging is very specific. Send emails from the current owner of that lead. So you can actually set this up for your entire team and hit save. Oh, and then give it a name. So website visitors, specific industry, right fit, sequence. So across 2 steps, you can actually take all the ideal fit companies that are visiting your website, pop the right contacts into a sequence, and you're good to go. The last thing I want to show you here, before I'm going to give you some tips on messaging and other ways that you can set the same thing up, even if you can't put website visitor tracking on your site, is the dashboard where you can see all the data on your website visitor trackers. And this might resolve some of those questions. And it looks like we got some volunteers for the beta testing that thing. That's great. Thank you. But we've actually pre-built a dashboard for website visitor tracking information. So when if you haven't hopped over here before, right under tools and workflows, the same place we just went to set up those plays, you'll see there's a tab called analytics. And when you go there, there's going to be a folder called Created by Apollo. You can create your own in here as well, but this is pre-built for you. So once you get that code on your website, you can just pop over here and click Website Visitor Trends. I'll load it up right now. And what you'll notice is with this dashboard, it's going to pull together 3 different reports you have access to. Your website visitor daily volume trends. You could affect the time frame here. This is 30 days. The top 10 pages visited and the top 10 companies that are visiting you. And again, you can adjust the timelines here. There's other ways to set up your own custom reports, but pre-built for you is this dashboard. So if today you go add that website visitor tracking, next week you could be looking at this, gleaning insights from where people are going. Different ways to use that, such as different pages with testimonials, success stories. Maybe it'll help tell you which one people are most interested in, so you could double down and add others. So that's how you get yourself set up in Apollo to have that website visitor tracking, start automating, giving yourself the right time, the right place, that sort of thing. Let me get out of here. So let's get into messaging real quick. You don't have to mention their visit. Folks in the chat are talking about, is it going to track the individual? People might even find it creepy if you're mentioning just that you know their company is visiting, but you don't even need to get into that. There's different ways of using information in your messaging where you don't creep them out like, hey, I saw you visit the website yesterday at 2:30. What were you doing there, right? But you can leverage that curiosity. They weren't on the page to have fun. They're on that page to learn something, to get some information. So you could be the first company reaching out to provide better insights, education, success stories, testimonials. They're on there because they're looking for something. Just hitting them up with that might be a way to get the conversation started. And ideally, if they're looking for it, give them what they need before they have to go find it from a competitor. You can also match the pages viewed and the intent level to your messaging or the frequency of reaching out. So for example, if people are going to the pricing page, or they go to the pricing page multiple times, maybe you automate a coupon going out, or you call to offer a discount or talk about a promotion. Depending on what you're selling here, maybe a coupon doesn't make sense if you're selling 12 months of software, but you get the idea. You can match the messaging to the pages they're going to. You get some understanding of what they're thinking about, talking about. You could also send testimonials and success stories. For example, if you have different pages for different industries, you could follow up on the phone via email, speaking about what you've been able to do for companies like theirs. And you can spend more time on your VIP leads. That's what you want to do anyways, but now you've got another data point, another way of understanding what is a good lead. Where do you want to spend your time? You want to get hyper personalized, delight offers. This is a great opportunity to do the things that a lot of folks aren't doing. Those delight ideas, gifts in the mail. And there's easy ways to do this for pretty cheap. Art. I love this idea that Josh mentioned a few webinars ago about commissioning artists on Fiverr to take somebody's LinkedIn photo and draw it for them, right? Handwritten notes and cards. I still do a lot of video messages. You'll see a text message I sent to an executive right there. That sort of stuff actually makes a big impact. People really like the handwritten notes. Less and less folks are doing it today. Invitations to in-person events. If you need to narrow that down, there's a limited amount of seats for those in-person events, those dinners. Great way to narrow it down is who's been visiting a website you haven't been able to talk to yet. Again, we want to be smarter with our outbound targeting, messaging, timing, automation. You can do this even if you can't put that website visitor tracking. Maybe you're a salesperson, you're not in control of what's on the website. Potentially you can influence what folks do in your organization, do that. But even right now, if you can't do that, you can set up these same plays. You can automate things the same way. And instead of having website visitor information coming in, you can use pivot filters or signals, stuff like the technologies they use, job postings that have gone up recently, headcount growth, buying signals. I really like using the news. If you haven't hopped into that news filter, there's a lot of different ways to use that. New executives, cost cutting, opening new location. And at the person level, time and current role, job change. A lot of folks like job change. I like time and current roles, 0 to 12 months. There's been some data indicate that for director and VP level across industries, 9 months is around when they start to move away from the status quo, be more willing to spend money. That makes sense. You want to get your sea legs, understand what's going on, maybe get your team's buy-in if you're a good leader. And certainly if you're brought in to fix up the mess of the last person, at some point you realize you're going to have to do something simple or change something. So oftentimes status quo is our biggest competitor. Time and current role, 0 to 12 months is a great filter for that. You go in, put in your basic filters, throw the pivot filter on top. So you know what's a good lead, but now you're going to only look at the good leads that fit that signal or that pivot filter, and then adjust your messaging so that it's incorporating that new information. So we're going to get headed over to the Q&A. Can you filter out bots in even your own company? That's a great, Graham, let me mark that one. So You can use all the filters available to you. In the things I just went through, you'll notice that there's filters for company as well as person. So in there, you can actually create inclusion or exclusion list, or you could just put the specific company. So we only covered a few of the different filters because of time, but anything that you'd normally want to do in there, you can use that to either segregate out website visitors or to protect yourself from, again, maybe speaking to active customers or seeing your own company go into your own website. Can we track single pages and not the entire website? I don't know if you can exclude the entire website, but I know you can track single pages. When you go to set up there, you'll notice that when you hit advanced settings, that's where you can pop in specific pages. And then that's also where you put in high, medium, or low intent for that page. You don't need to put that in, but I think that'd be really useful. And my guess is that once you get that set up, start seeing the data. I talked to a couple of companies. They said their page used to be very, very basic. And once you start seeing this data, you start creating pages just to see if people click on it as a filtering mechanism. So I know not everybody can do that here, but if you have your own business, potentially you notice that specific pages are great. If somebody goes there, it'll give you some indication of the intent or a specific situation. Let's keep scrolling through here. A lot of great questions. Ryan says, I don't think it's creepy. Think about the emails we receive when we visit a website online shopping. They send so many follow-up emails and target ads. So that, and Ryan, that's a good point. I actually went through a whole bunch of different websites, put stuff in shopping cart to see how folks follow up. And we're actually all trained, to Ryan's point, we're all trained to this, right? On Ralph Lauren, for example, I put something in the cart. They texted me, they emailed me. Saks Fifth Avenue did the same. I couldn't find one site that didn't do something like that. I think maybe Roomba did it within 24 hours, but we're already being tracked and they're trying to then tailor their messaging. You see that with big companies to consumers in a big way. This is just something where we can start doing that, for companies selling like we do, outbound sales, in a way that's very similar. Somebody was saying, what about folks working from home? I think it'll still capture that. We tested it internally. Janet set up a domain, put the code in, and then we had everybody on the team go visit it to see if it would track it. All of us, none of us work in the same office, and it picked it up. Mind you, I've been in sales for the last 2 decades, so I'm not the most technical person, but it did pick it up. We tested it, and it did a great job with it. A couple people are asking that question, so let me scroll through here some more. Another question on excluding companies. Yep, you can exclude as many companies as you'd like. There's a couple ways to do that. List, inclusion or exclusion. Same for any of your searches in people or companies. There's also a company filter where you can just pop into that filter and type the specific company if it's just one or a handful. How can I create a message that resonates not only with decision makers, but also to everyone else that influence in the consensus, especially for enterprise-sized companies? That's a great question when you're selling to enterprise. Something my most success I've ever had in my career was when I was at Uber selling to large mid-market enterprise companies. And that was really when I dived into sequences. One of the reasons I'm such an advocate for Apollo is that was the first time ever when I was told to stop selling for a period of time. And I was setting up sequences individually for companies or different personas by industry. And to that question, I think you can hit it through 2 different ways. People always want to buy, like the average person is thinking about themselves even when subconscious. So when you send out your messaging, what I did there is I just made sure if I'm going to be messaging somebody who's not in the C-suite, I want to make sure that they see their selfish interest in here. Then I'm going to provide coverage by showing that by doing right by themselves, their selfish interest, it's also going to do right by the company. And that's what I did. And that was the most successful thing I tried when I was at Uber and I was setting up those sequences, doing the right thing for yourself is also the right thing for the company, overlapping those two. It gave them, I think it also set up an easier ask internally. Can I, as a salesperson, set up the website tracking, or do I need my company admin person? I would imagine, Soumya, I would imagine you need somebody at your company to do that if you don't have access to that already, because you're going to need to hop in and either pop that into the head, the HTML, or into Google Tag Manager. But you can pull the resource kit from here and send it over to somebody in your organization who might know who that person is, and just walk them through where to get that code. It's pretty simple. Can you explain how you identify people at companies? So I think Robert might have been asking about how do you identify people at companies with the website visitor tracking. Again, website visitor tracking is at the company level. What we're doing here and what the plays I set up and the filters we're using were so that we could take the data on what companies are coming to the website and then use Apollo's data to then find the right people in those organizations that would care about that problem or be the ideal person to speak with. There's times when somebody's visiting your website that wouldn't be the right person to speak with. You still want to talk to that person though. So for example, I gave an example early in my career where oftentimes an executive in the company would ask me to go do homework for the executive. There's a problem, something bubbled up to the top 3 problems, and it was my job to go do the grunt work, going to websites, getting testimonials, getting success stories, basically collating all that information and making recommendations. I'm not sure if those recommendations were followed, but I certainly did all the homework. So just because somebody's on your website doesn't mean they're the final decision maker. You may still want to go to that person. My guess is anybody beneath that person is not doing that unless it's at the discretion of somebody or something they're going to be bringing up with them, right? Jeff was asking, do we need to manually pull in records at ICP companies? So you can automate that as long as you set up the filters. So personas are very popular. You could use personas, or you can use all the other search filters and attach that to the, like, for example, if you go back in here, you want to copy the play so that you're taking the companies that visited your website from that list and finding the right folks. You're going to use all the search filters you might normally use to find leads. And now you're going to attach that to that list. So it's going to basically do the search for you and put them into a sequence or alert the rep or alert yourself. There's a lot of different options of what you do for follow through there. Terry Quinn asked this, but I saw a couple other folks ask this. Zena also asked it, how is this feature available? Let me go back to that page and I'll show it to you because it's going to be available on every plan, but there's some limitations there. Everybody can set this up. It's brand new and any plan can use it. The limitations come in how many companies you can see per day, number of companies revealed. So free and basic, you're fairly limited 10 a day, but that still gets you started on seeing that data and still can be really impactful, especially if you don't have a lot of visitors. Professional and custom, you can have a lot more website visitors tracked. But to me, the bigger deal is when it comes to automations, leveraging sequences and automation there to have very specific messaging to the folks visiting your website based on the criteria of the persona, the buyer or the company. Then I think you'd want to be at least on the pro plan so you can use all the steps in a sequence and take advantage of having a lot of different highly targeted sequences. So let me go check some more questions here. Are there plans to extend website visitor tracking down to the individual person? I don't think so. I don't think so. I think it's only at the company level. Again, that might not even be possible. Like I said, I'm not super technical anymore, but right now it's just at a company level. How to send out automated LinkedIn messages via Apollo? What kind of data can we extract from the website visitor tracking? Ethan, so the data you can get, if you only set up website visitor tracking, the only data you'll get is that this company went to your website. You'll see total visits, total number of unique viewers, and of course you can see the graph. You can see it all plotted out. If you add specific pages that you want to track, that's where it gets more interesting because then you can say your pricing page, specific pages for different types of companies, industries, or buyers. And that's where you can see all that data, the pages the company's visiting. And you can also set it up to high, medium, or low. So you can do a little bit of automation around, hey, the companies that have high intent, I want to put into a certain sequence, a high intent sequence. James, is it a good idea to send sequence emails to web visitors? I mean, I start to think that sending 2 or 3 sequence emails to web visitors is way too much. So again, the level of activity, the level of outbound messaging you're going to do, everybody does something different. I would touch leads a lot in that first month. I was called pleasantly persistent, but it worked very well. So you're already going to be doing something with leads. Just imagine you got a pool of 100 leads. You don't know if any of them are coming to the website. Whatever you'd be comfortable doing with all those leads, I would think you'd be at least comfortable doing that or more with the ones that you know are also going to your website to check things out. So if you're only willing to message a cold lead that you're not sure if they've been to the website once a month, then maybe you'd be willing to do 2 for people going to the website. If I knew that I was going to go outbound to a lead, I thought it was a good fit, and then I found out they were also going to the website, I'd probably be messaging them at least once that first week and calling probably 3 or 4 times. But again, I think that's probably more aggressive than a lot of folks would be willing to do. So I think we're right at the end here. So thank you for all the great questions. Again, thanks for coming to the webinar. You'll be getting the recording and a follow-up with all the docs, the resource kit that you see here, but you can grab them right now. Don't forget to go check out Apollo Academy, all that new content that's up there, and pre-order or join the wait list for the new book that'll be coming out in July. Hope you have a wonderful rest of your week. Happy selling.